You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology, celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our main website, well, the main radio website where you can listen to the X-Zone, 724-365, as well as the live show, Monday through Friday, from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight, www.xzoneradiotv.com. X-Zone Nation, we're going to be talking about a subject that, as a parent, scares the heck out of me. We're going to be talking about losing a child. How do you talk to a parent and loved ones who have lost a child? How about compassionate advice from someone who's been there and gone through the grieving process to be able to laugh again? The soul-destroying agony of your child dying is only truly known and understood by those who have endured it. Only a parent understands the powerful bond that you have with your child, that absolute underlying love you have, and monumental desire that roars like an open fire inside you to protect your child at all costs. I've got 6 children. I've got 8 grandchildren. I would be devastated. I would be ruined. I don't know how I could cope. My guest this hour, her name is Chloe Taylor Brown, and she is the author of I Can Laugh Again. Now, it's truly openly said that a parent will lay down their life for their child, which is so true. Several years ago, Chloe experienced a paradigm crash. Everything in her life and her world shattered into more than 1 million pieces following the death of Justin, her youngest child at the time. Who am I, Chloe asked herself. Where do I go from here? Who do I want to become? And what can I do and share with other people from my own life experiences? Well, Chloe has done this in a book that she has written entitled, I Can Laugh Again. Joining me now is Chloe Taylor Brown. And Chloe, welcome to the X-Zone.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me on.
Chloe, can you take us back in time and tell us what happened?
Sure. It was actually many years ago, and I don't want anyone to think that this just happened and I woke up and being able to laugh again after a few weeks or even a few years. Justin fell in our pool in September 1st, 96. Mm-hmm. And it was a beautiful day. We had all just had a wonderful time that summer of being part of history, really, of participating in many of the Olympic Games and just having a great summer, like, people would have in a summer. And that morning, my husband had gotten up and taken all three of the kids with him to the park. And, you know, a lot of moms like to wake up and have the house to themselves. It's just like a breath of fresh air. And that's how I was feeling that morning. And they got back home around noon, my husband and the two boys. And it was just, like I said, a normal day. And the boys had convinced their dad to stop by McDonald's, which was Justin's favorite place in food. And I was talking to my husband, and the phone rang, and I answered the phone, and then I saw Justin and my older son, and then when I got off the phone, I went to the study, and I asked, Rick asked me who was on the phone, and I told him, and I said, "Where's Justin?" And he said, "I thought he was with you." And so I started looking upstairs and all around, and went outside to look around, and then I saw him floating in the pool. And that was the beginning of my worst nightmare. And jumped down off the porch and ran and jumped down in the pool and got him. And I did CPR, but I don't believe I did it long enough because I didn't really know any better. And by that time I was screaming, and my voice registered to my husband, and he looked over, and, you know, we were in a state of shock right away. And so we just jumped in the car, and the children's hospital was about six minutes away from us when we got there, and Justin didn't have a heartbeat, but they did revive him. He got a heartbeat, but he never recovered from that. And we were very, very patient, very, very hopeful, believed that he was going to be strong and pull through. But he didn't. He was brain dead, and we had to take him off life support on the 13th day. And that's what happened.
My gosh. What inspired you to write your book, Chloe? I Can Laugh Again.
Well, I didn't set out to write it. I was writing at the time another story, and about my modeling career. And a friend of mine was an author, and she had an agent, and she had told her agent about me and writing, and I met him, and he said that he was really interested in the writing that I had given him, and I was really excited about that. And I guess after about a month of working with him, he told me that my friend had shared my story with him, and he asked me, well, how were you able to move forward? I really felt, you know, that he was being invasive, and I didn't really want to talk about it. So I said, I don't know, and I wanted to get rid of him. And he says, well, I think you should know that, and maybe you should write a few pages just so you could know about it. And as I was writing, I couldn't write it in a few pages. It just became, because I had to go back to the beginning to understand, because I wasn't through it. And so that was the beginning of it, even though I rejected that agent and we parted ways. And but I did go back to it, and I just decided that it was a story that I needed to know for myself of how I was able to get through that. And that was you know, how I decided that I was going to write it, because I believed that if I could write that, it would be cathartic for me, and it would inspire other people to have hope. And that's why I did it.
So the writing of your book, I Can Laugh Again, it was used to heal yourself as well as to get a message out to other people who may have had the same type of loss that you had?
Initially, it was to heal myself. And I'd often been told that I was a good writer and that I was an amazing storyteller.
Right.
So after about maybe 3 years had passed, I sat down to write the story and to be able to heal myself. And so that's how and when I wrote it, after I wrote it, I shared it with one of my favorite aunts and a favorite friend, and they encouraged me that it was really good and that I should share with other people, because it wasn't just for me, but it was also for other people who had lost a loved one, and it wasn't necessarily for a mother or a parent who had lost a child. It was for anyone who had ever lost anyone that they loved. And with their encouraging words, I was finally able to let it go. And it was many years. It didn't just happen. As I said, it's my fourth book.
Right.
So I released 3 other books, and finally, just in 2014, I decided that, okay, now is really the time. I'm going to be brave. And I'll tell you, Rob, I was still nervous about it. And one of my best friends actually read it with me, word for word, twice, to assure me that I was ready to let it go. And that's why I'm ready to let it go.
Let me ask you this question, Chloe. Did you and your husband blame yourselves for what happened?
Of course. I did for a shorter period of time. My husband did for a longer period of time. I was able to rationalize that it was nobody's fault, that it was really indeed a tragic accident, and that we could go back and forth and say, what if? And, I was angry with God, and I said, God, I hear you. Why didn't you say something? Why didn't you whisper? So I did go through that, but I finally let that go and just started to really work on myself. And my husband held on to that for longer than I did. And I realized that, you can never get enough counseling.
Sure.
Even though at some point you have to move from counseling to go to coaching. And so the counseling and therapy is very necessary in the beginning. But then you get to a point where you're really ready. Not everyone. You have to decide that you want to be happy again. And a lot of people I've learned from doing this, they don't decide. They feel as though they cannot ever be that person that they were. And in many cases you can't, but you can still be a happy person and you can still contribute. So my husband and I came to the conclusion that we both wanted to be happy again, and we did the work to be able to laugh again and to share.
Are you and your husband still together?
We are.
That's
over
wonderful.
30 years of marriage.
Bless you.
Yes, we met in college.
Wow.
Thank you. We met in college, and we've been married for, I believe, 33 years. So when you start to forget, you've been married for a long time. But so we laugh together about many things. We have 2 older children, and we have Joshua, who was born after Justin's death. And we wanted to be happy for them as well as happy for ourselves, because they deserved that, and we deserved it as well. And as I said, you can never have too much counseling. And we've gone back to counseling that didn't have anything to do with Justin, just because you're married so long and you just need to find ways to stay together and to be happy together and to create a new future for yourself. And so that's what we've done over the years. We realized that coaching and counseling and therapy is a good thing.
See, I look at counseling as an emotional tune-up, just like you would take your car to a mechanic to get a tune-up. Relationships are the same. They need tune-ups. Do you think that the loss of Justin was part of God's plan?
Well, I don't know if it was part of God's plan, but I do know that God can take anything and make something good from it.
Right.
And I believe that's what has happened. God has helped me to make something good of a tragedy. And I realized that, Rob, shortly after, maybe about a year after Justin's death, I was still modeling, and I was working with some younger girls, and one of them had lost a brother to a motorcycle accident. And I found myself encouraging her, not intentionally. I've always been a positive person, glass half full and sometimes overflowing. And I was encouraging her, and I just moved on, and we worked together after that, and maybe 3 or 4 weeks later, and she seemed to be much lighter and in a better mood. And she says, well, I'm on it, and my mom's on it. And I said, well, you're on what? And she says, on what you told me. And I really liked that. And so it inspired me.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, in modeling, we're a lot of crazy people, but we're normal. And there was another girl that was there. And she says, well, if you can put it in a pill, I'll get on it. And I realized that, wow, you know, I can use this to encourage other people. And so that's how I realized that encouraged me to want to do it more, not just by accident, but to be intentional about it.
What are some
I used it in that way.
What are some of the stories that you can share with us that others have shared with you, how your book has made a positive influence in their life after they too have gone through a tragic loss?
Well, the book is I'll have the published book by the end of December. And so for all these years, I've been sharing my stories in the manuscript.
I see.
And what people have told me is that if you can be so beautiful and have a smile on your face and a twinkle in your eye, then I feel that I can too.
Mm-hmm.
I became so spiritual. I was always kind of spiritual, but I became not just a religious person. I was going to Mass weekly, but after Justin's death, I found that I wanted to go more. But it wasn't the religious part. It was the spiritual part of being connected to a higher purpose. And that inspired a lot of people. It inspired people that I could be there for my children, that I could be there for my sisters, because I'm the older girl of 3 younger sisters, and they took it really hard. And I found myself just being an encourager, and I realized, Rob, that I'd always been that. And it made me feel good to help other people to feel good, whether it was talking about how I was able to laugh again, because that was my prayer. My prayer was, please, God, just let me laugh again. Because my laughter it was so hearty, and it would draw people from other rooms to come see who that woman was, and I wanted that back. And I don't know, I just loved being an inspiration for other people. And I realized that if I could use this to make other people smile or to give them hope, that they too could get through something as challenging as this, or at least get to a place where they could be okay.
What was the hardest part about writing your book, I Can Laugh Again?
Oh, wow. Well, the hardest part was reminiscing and going back there and being right there in the moment.
Yeah.
And as I said, even after I wrote it, I knew that there was some spiritual force that was helping me to write it, because after the years of writing it, I couldn't read through it. I could only get to maybe chapter 2 because I couldn't see it on the screen. I couldn't read it on the pages because it was too painful. And I wonder, how in the world did I even write this? So when I was able to read it objectively, the way that I was reading any other book, I was really inspired by my own writing. I was inspired by that young woman, as though she was not me, the courage that she had, the faith that she had. And what I said was, wow, I want to be more like her. So it's truly a wonderful, wonderful, true story that's written in a way that very relatable and entertaining and really real and raw and passionate.
Exonation, my guest this hour is Chloe Taylor Brown, and she's the author of I Can Laugh Again, and her website is www.thechloeexperience.com. What did your other children, think of the book when they read the manuscript?
Well, unfortunately, Rob, they have not read it. But they have promised me that they're going to read it that they were going to be the first to read the published book. They've not been able to go back. My daughter, my oldest child, is 29 now, and she was 10 at the time, and she really blamed herself because when my husband took them out that morning, he dropped her off at her friend's house, and she felt that if she had been home, that she would have known where Justin was. So I believe that she's still suffering a little bit from that. My oldest son is 26 now. He was 7. He seems to be a little more like me. He loves talking about Justin and what they used to do, and he's promised me that he's going to read it. But they haven't been able to read it. My husband has gotten little glimpses of it when he's seen it on the screen. But they've not been able to read it, and I just pray that they will, because I know that it will be healing for them as well.
Your other books that you've written, what were they about, Chloe?
Well, as I said, I started writing this book first, and it was actually the first book that I finished, but I couldn't let it go, and I thought maybe, okay, I'm going to write some self-help books. So my first book was Getting Ready Chloe Style, Perfecting Your Authentic Image, and it was all about the relationship between body image, fashion, and self-esteem. I was a model, and I saw a lot of girls who had a poor body image, and I felt that I'd always loved my body, and I accepted it. Well, at least I did from a teenager. I grew up very quickly and really grew tall very quickly, so I had to come to terms with that and grow into myself as well. And so I felt that since I had done that at an earlier age, that I could share a lot. And so I did research on body image, fashion, and self-esteem, and that's what my first book was on. My second book was a workbook, and it was really my plan of how I was going to get my life back together after Justin's death, because I didn't know when I asked those questions, who am I? Who do I want to become? Those were real questions I asked, and I had to go into a really quiet place for months to get those answers from myself. And it became my journal. And that journal became that second published book. It's a workbook that you answer these questions. It's very inductive. It draws from you. And when you answer those questions, you're creating a new life for yourself, or you're enhancing your life. And I got coaching between all this time. And because I was able to implement those processes into my life, and I was doing it very well, my coach encouraged me to go take the coaching courses and to be able to share with other people. So I became a coach, and I coached people at corporations like the Home Depot, PricewaterhouseCoopers, professionals, for business owners and athletes. And I've always had an affinity and passion for young women and girls. So my third book is called Girl Swag, and about creating your life that young women and girls would love for themselves. So it's a curriculum workbook. And I was able to take the processes from coaching adults, from my workbooks, and put them into a language that young women and girls, middle school through college, could understand. And so it's an inductive workbook, also a curriculum that when you answer the questions, you're creating the most amazing life for yourself. And it's a 12-week program if you're doing it in person, or a 6-week. And I've actually experimented with that and doing it, and the girls transform right before your eyes.
Wow.
Because they have to go out and do the work. And, and I just love it. I just love helping people. And so those were the 3 books that I published, and I had to live up to myself and face myself and say, okay, now, Chloe, it's time. And so it's kind of like a full circle exercise for me to come back to be able to publish I Can Laugh Again.
Yeah. Chloe, you and I have to take a commercial break with the news at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by, but I'd like to tell you something, Chloe. You're one heck of a lady. You're one heck of a lady.
Thank you, Rob.
And I thank you so much for sharing with us tonight here on the X Zone. So please stand by. We'll be back on the other side of the news. X Zone Nation, my guest this hour, Chloe Taylor Brown, and her website is www.thex-zone.com. the Chloe Experience.com. It's the ChloeExperience.com. And she has a new book coming out very shortly. It's entitled, I Can Laugh Again. Chloe and I will be back on the other side of the news and a few of our commercials as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. 1-800-610-7035, worldwide toll-free. Our email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media, X Zone Radio TV, and our radio website where you can listen to the X Zone 724 365, including the live show Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight, www.xzoneradiotv.com. What a story. What a lady. We'll be back with Chloe Taylor Brown on the other side of this break. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Don't go away.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Wilda Wiecka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we will weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Wilda Wiecka, and the Science of Magic right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Jesus came back now and insisted that we listen to him. How would the world be different if Christians really followed the Gospels? For 2,000 years, we've been practicing a religion. Now it's finally time to get it right. Read Liberating Jesus, new from Roberta Grimes. Meet the Jesus you never knew. Roberta uses afterlife evidence and biblical analysis to prove that Jesus is exactly right. Learning the lessons that he came to teach is the reason we are born at all. Roberta says he has come back now to insist that we actually listen to him so we can begin to use his teachings to unite and transform the world. Liberating Jesus wherever books are sold. Jesus has the answers, and it's not too late. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
I'm William S. Peckham. If you enjoy a good mystery with a touch of the paranormal, then you'll love my novel, From Out of the Woodwork. It's the story of a young Toronto contractor, Sean Kennedy, who buys derelict homes, guts them, and turns them into multifamily dwellings. Slums just waiting to happen. When Sean buys 29 Livery Lane, the house fights back. Former owners unexpectedly come out of the woodwork as he starts the destruction. The apparitions come to him when he touches old books, reads hidden letters, rummages through old boxes, finds a locket, or reads a discovered manuscript of a murder mystery. From Out of the Woodwork, we'll take you from 1899 to the horror of the World Trade Center, September 11, 2001. Check out From Out of the Woodwork on my website, www.williamspeckham.com.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. Yep, it's still me, Rob McConnell. And yes, we are still in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My guest this hour is Chloe Taylor Brown. Her website is www.thechloeexperience.com. And she's the author of a book soon to be released worldwide, I Can Laugh Again. And first of all, Chloe, again, thank you so much for being with us and for sharing your story.
Thank you for having me on, Rob. I really appreciate it.
It is my great pleasure, young lady. I was wondering if you might be able to help some people who are out there right now who may have, need to cope with an unexpected loss. Based on your experience, what is the first steps to dealing with an unexpected loss?
Well, it could be different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
However, I would say to go with whatever emotions that you have. Those emotions could be anger, disbelief, shock, sadness, where you want to isolate yourself, you don't want to go out. Those initial emotions are all valid, and don't fight them. But after a while, you're going to take it day by day. You want to step out just a little bit, I really believe that what saved me from going into a black hole was to get up out of the bed and to go be with some people. Even if I really wasn't there, my body was there, just to not be home alone. So that was the first thing for me. And as I said, I was working as a model at the time, and I forced myself to whatever bookings my agent could get for me, I would take them because I wanted to get out. I realized that the more I stayed home by myself and to grieve by myself, the more closed I was. So I would say, be with your friends. You don't have to talk. Just be with some people. And if someone says something, or if you see something on TV or you hear on the radio that makes you want to giggle, don't hold back. It's okay to laugh again. I felt so guilty the very first time I laughed out loud, and it was by accident. I didn't want to laugh, and my sisters and friends just wanted to get me out, and I went out, and we were at a restaurant, and one of them did say something, and I laughed out. And my first response was to look around the restaurant to see who may have seen me laughing. And I even said out, what if someone sees me laughing? That's just because I just felt so bad. And they said, we want you to laugh again. So if you happen to laugh or giggle, don't feel bad about it. Allow yourself to do that. If you start to cry in public, it's okay. Don't hold back. These emotions are raw, and we have to go through that. But then we want to start to do as much as we can. We have to make some decisions that we want to be okay. And I've realized that when I was going through that and trying to find other people who could understand what I'd gone through, there were some women who didn't want to be okay. And it made me feel like I was never going to be okay. But I did find some other women who were able to laugh again. So I said, I want to be like them.
Right.
And then I started to ask them, what were they doing? And you know what, Rob? They had a great faith. And I would say that whatever you believe in, you know, you want to hold on to that as much as you can.
Chloe, what are the many parts of the grieving process?
Well, first is shock and disbelief and anger. And then you have a long period of just sadness. And then you may even revert back to be shocked again. And then you start to accept. You have to start to accept the fact that my son did die. Justin died. You know, people want to say that he passed away. Justin died. He was my son. He lived and he died. And so we have to accept that. And then we have to not blame ourselves. You know, don't blame yourself. It's an accident. And if you can let go of those things, the real healing starts. And so you do have to ask yourself, where do I go from here? And you may have to switch careers. You may want to move. But I'll tell you, you don't want to make any big decisions when you're in the midst of that, because for the most part, they're not going to be good decisions. My husband and I thought we want to run away and move, and all the decisions that we made were just, I wouldn't say they were wrong, but they just didn't work because we were making those decisions from a victim's point of view. So it's okay to be a victim for a minute, but you can't wallow in that self-pity for too long, because if you do, you're going to actually become a victim. And when you become a victim, people will leave you. They don't want to be around a victim for too long. And so you wonder, where are all the friends that we had when we had a great life?
Yeah.
Well, when you're a victim, you start to attract those types of people. So you got to be victorious.
Be victorious, not a victim. I like that. Chloe, what have you learned from this whole experience?
That life is what you make it. And things will happen. Life does change. And it can be very challenging at times. My mother was killed in a car accident when I was 13, and she had 8 children. My father was an alcoholic, and he was not in any shape or condition to take care of us. So my grandmother, I would hear her say, I don't want my daughter's children to go to the poorhouse. And I thought there was really a poorhouse. And I didn't want to go to that poorhouse. But what she was saying is that she didn't want us to be split up. And so she did her very best to take care of us. And I realized over time that, you know, I got through that. I was able to move on, but it was a very long challenge. And my aunt and uncle, this happened when I was 13, and my aunt and uncle came to get me when I was 16. And my life changed overnight at 16. And I did go back to that and say, you know what? I got through that. But then I'd go back and say, but that's my baby. I'm never going to get through that. But I did. And it took a lot of work. You have to really want to move forward. And it doesn't just happen, Rob. You have to do the work. You can't just wish for it. You've got to do the work to move forward.
Over the years since Justin died, have you ever felt that he's tried to communicate with you and to let you know that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you share some of those experiences with us?
Sure. And I share a couple of those experiences in the book. So Justin died initially on September 1st, and he was revived. And I would say that, you know, we took him off life support on the 8th day, and on the 13th day he died. This was September, and I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I was losing weight, and so I read a lot because I couldn't sleep. So one day, this was probably in February, several months after, I decided I was just going to go read a book and go to my room, and my husband was spending a lot of time with the children. And I was lying on the bed, and I started to feel sleepy. So I just laid down on the back, and I laid the book across my chest, and I dozed off. And I felt this jumping up and down on the bed, and I raised myself up to look over to my left, and there was no one there.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was my 7-year-old, even though it wasn't that heavy.
Right.
And I laid down again and dozed off again, and the jumping started again. And I lifted myself up to look again, and my spirit said to me, "You can't see Justin's spirit." And so at that moment, I could feel a wind that was around me, around my face especially. And I just accepted it, and I just allowed whatever was going to happen. And the jumping on the bed, and Justin loved to jump on my bed and mess my bed up. It was he just loved it, and he would giggle so loud.
Yeah.
And so I knew it was him. And I could feel the wind,
right.
And there was an emblem at the foot of the bed that he used to spin around, and that started to just spin around. I could hear it spinning.
Oh my gosh.
And it was as though he got on the bed again, he jumped one last time, and I felt it was like he kissed me on the cheek, and he was gone. And I knew that he was okay. I knew that Justin was, and he would always be, and he wanted me to know that he was okay. And I allowed that to settle within myself and in my spirit, and I got up and I went in and I shared that with my husband and my 2 older children, and they hung on to every word. And I remember my husband saying, I wish something like that would happen to me. And he never had an experience like that, but my experience with Justin was enough for me and for my family for us to move forward. And I've had several experiences similar to that before. Several years later, when I have a 16-year-old son,
mm-hmm.
and in December of '98. I was taking a shower, and I can be really present, and I can hear and feel. And I was being really present, and I heard in my spirit, everything will be restored. And I didn't know what I felt that I knew it, but I didn't know exactly what it meant. And I shared it with my husband and my best friend, and they just felt good with me. 4 weeks later, I had this urge to go to a very spiritual church. I'm Catholic with my religion, and so this church, they're just very charismatic, and I had an urge to go there. My husband and 2 kids, we got dressed and we went there, and right before the pastor was going to start preaching, this man bellowed out and he started speaking into a different language. And the preacher, he said, "I'm not going to be able to preach the sermon that I prepared, but the Holy Spirit has given me a message to give to the entire congregation. But each one of you think it's just for you." And he said, "The Holy Spirit wants me to know that everything that you've lost will be restored in '99. And instantly, I knew I was pregnant. And my husband grabbed my hand, and he shook his head, yes. And we waited until the service was over.
Mm-hmm.
We went outside, and I said, "Why did you shake your head yes to me?" And he says, "I felt that God was saying we were going to have another boy." And I said, "I thought that I was pregnant." And Rob, the very next day, ironically, I had a physical scheduled, not for pregnancy, but a physical.
Mm-hmm.
And when I walked in, my doctor said, "How are you doing? How are you feeling?" I said, "I want a pregnancy test." And she says, "Why? Do you feel pregnant?" I told her, "No, I don't. I just want the test." And sure enough, I was 4 weeks pregnant.
My heavens.
And there's Joshua. He's 16.
You are one heck of a lady. You truly are.
Thank you.
You truly are. Listen, before we have to say so long, I'd like to talk to you about your very own radio show, The Chloe Experience. Tell us about it.
The Chloe Experience is a podcast. It was a radio show that, because of all the work that I'm doing, it's easier to be a podcast because I can record. I don't have to be there at a certain time. I was really doing a lot of things that I love. And, if you can love all these things and you can do them, but you can't do them all at the same time.
That's right.
And so the podcast is to really encourage people. It's a breath of fresh air, and it shares other women's experiences and what they've gone through and how they built their businesses or how they've gone through things, and they're able to share their experiences. And Rob, I felt called to inspire women and girls, but I'll tell you that men just want to be part of it, so I started allowing men to be part of the Chloe Experience also. So we share the stories of men, and we talk about what's going on in the world, and all positive things. Or if they are things that have not been so positive, they've turned them into something positive. So I love encouraging people and sharing wonderful stories on the Chloe Experience radio show and podcast.
Isn't it nice to see men finally letting that mask come off their face and letting the world know that, we've got hearts, we've got feelings, we can cry, we can laugh, and we can wear
I love it.
Yeah. My daughters tell me that I wear my heart on my sleeve, and their dad is nothing else but a big old teddy bear.
And my husband too.
Yeah.
He played basketball in college and the NBA and also in Europe, and he's 6'9". He used to be 6'10". He shrunk just a little bit. But he was even in college they called him a gentle giant.
Yeah.
And he's a very sensitive man, and I love that about him. And my oldest son is 26, and he's a very sensitive man too. And I think that with him being that way, it attracts other people to want to come on the show. And I've done workshops where they were for women only, and the guy says, "Well, we gotta come too," and they just turn into men and women. So I decided just go with it, and we're just going to go ahead and invite the men too, and not try to exclude them. So I love it.
I think the old perception of men being hard and mean and crusty and the lunchbox type and this, that, and the other thing where nothing bothers them, that was just a bunch of bunk anyway. I'd just rather be who I am and let people know who I am. I
like that.
Yeah. And
I like that. Just be who I am.
That's right. Chloe, all I can say to you, my dear, is I'm so happy you came on the show with us tonight and shared your experiences. Thank you for sharing your message with the world, because I'm sure that each and every time that you meet someone, each and every time that you go out and give one of your corporate lectures or coaching, and each and every time somebody reads one of your books, you touch them in a very special way, just like you've touched our audience tonight here on the X Zone. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Rob, for having me. And I wanted to say that even though I was in the valley of grief, I have really experienced a glimpse of heaven, and that's what I think that people will get from the book. So I really appreciate you allowing me to share that.
It's my great pleasure. When is the book going to be out, Chloe, and where will people be able to buy copies?
The book is going to be out the very first of the year, and you'll be able to get copies everywhere books are sold. Barnes & Noble bookstores, online Barnes & Noble, Amazon.com. You'll also be able to get it on my website, thechloeexperience.com. So anywhere you want to buy a book, you can find my book.
Chloe, take care of yourself. Regards to your family, and I hope I have the pleasure of talking to you again in the future.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you so much for having me, and you have a wonderful new year.
You too, my friend. Good night, Chloe.
Good night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Exonation, Chloe Taylor Brown has been my guest this hour. www.thechloeexperience.com, and to look out for her book entitled I Can Laugh Again, coming out the very first week of the new year. It's going to be available everywhere. This is one book I have got to get. Now, I'll be back on the other side of the news at the top of the hour. As we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free, 1-800-610-7035. My email address is xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV, and our radio website where you can listen to the X-Zone 724, 365, as well as during the live show Monday through Friday from 8 p.m. Eastern until midnight at www.xzoneradiotv.com. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away. We have something very special coming up on the other side of the news. And, whoops, Craig, we have to remind the people or let them know that the new rel-mar app is now available at the Google Store, and it's Google Store, Play, and Amazon.com. Wherever you can buy your apps, the rel-mar app is there. Special things for members of the X-Zone Nation. That's right, Craig. Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, and it's going to be available as well as our website at www.xzoneradiotv.com. Okay, that was Craig letting me know that we have to go, gang. Sorry about that. He not only scares you when he does that, he scares the heck out of me. Once again, our guest this past hour, Chloe Brown Taylor, her website, www.thechloeexperience.com. I'll be back on the other side of the break, but the news don't go away.